Hey, it's another one. Today we're going to be doing a standing. Did the Bible come from the sky or was it man-made? The literal perception around the Bible, it was written by men who were inspired by God. Nonetheless, it is short of saying it was written by people, but we should believe it anyway. In the beginning, there was this family. I believe we all know this family. The family of Abraham. And in those times, they were passing on information as stories. For example, like the one I'm telling you right now. So the family will pass on stories and stories to their children so that they may be able to pass on a certain point. So in those days, they didn't have any kind of writing. So the only way they could relay information was through storytelling. So this phase started off orally. What kind of oral that you think of?
Sorry, children.
Started orally, which led to the general perspective. So different stories were being flung around differently, and the storyteller was the only one who could be able to interpret the story, or rather, the storyteller to the people, whether the family or the community, but it is something that always affected the people themselves. So how did it come to be written text? The first books that we have, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, they are said to be written by Moses. The fact about it is the entire Bible was not written by the same authors that they were termed to be written by. So Moses never wrote any books. Samuel didn't write any books. The only person that I believe wrote a book was probably David. Maybe Solomon. But definitely Paul. So the thing about it is Paul wrote letters, and those letters were now converted into actual books. But even in actuality, they are written as the letters of Paul. So the entire Bible wasn't authored by any of those people who wrote them. So Matthew did not write any books. Luke didn't do that. Nehemiah didn't write a book. So even the people who are said to be inspired, the authors who are said to be inspired by the Spirit, weren't actually the ones who wrote these books. So who did come to that point of writing the books? So when people do things, they always do them for some reason. So people do have agendas. So when those books were being written, the people who are writing them, the actual people that authored these books, they had a certain message to put across. Now what is this message? What was the agenda? Why did they put these things into text? And was it really a book, a Bible back then? The earliest traces of unionizing these books together as the Bible was within the era of Constantine. Before then, it was just known as the Torah or the Scripture. The Bible began as a Hebrew. The Bible began as a Hebrew text meant for Jewish people. It was interpreted into Greek and later into English, as history says. So how did we create the Bible? Since these stories were actually stories, was there an actual Adam and Eve? Was there an actual Samson? Was there an Ark of Noah? Scientists today are trying to prove these stories, whether they are true or whether they are myth, so that we may be able to differentiate them from the stories of Thor, Agikumu and Numbi, Lady Sif, Zeus and the children of Zeus.
Take off your disguise and flicker.
What is it that makes our stories more legitimate? Why do we believe that they actually happened? Story time. In the year 325 AD, in a land of Nicaea, currently Iznik, Turkey. Iznik, Turkey, the Council of Nicaea was created. So now we had two opposing ideologies about Christianity, about the true faith. So came this guy called Arius. Arius had a different approach around the faith. So there were two conflicting ideologies behind it, which could destroy Christianity in the period. It all circled around the divinity of Jesus. Was Jesus divine, or was he actually just a guy? So Arius supported the idea that actually Jesus was just only a fellow man, just like you and me. And according to the scriptures, they might actually support it. So a council was brought forth to come and discuss around that issue. So was Jesus actually God or was he not God? So these priests were supposed to be mediated by none other than Constantine. So Constantine sat them down. He was supposed to listen to them and come upon a state religion. This is the period when these people, these guys, sat down and said, hey, you know what? We have 1,000 scriptures, let us just trim them to 77. They decided which books are going to make it into the now Christian Bible. Was it already translated? Yeah, it was already translated because it was in circulation. But it wasn't really in circulation because the church was the only governing body that was supposed to hold the Bible. So people did not really have the power to own a Bible. So now that also brings up another question. Why was the Christian faith restricting the circulation of Bibles on a personal level? What were they actually trying to hide? Well, the only answer there is they had work to do. They had to trim off some books. Every book in existence was actually part of the scripture, which comprised of other books that we don't know of. The book of Timothy, the book of Philip, the book of Mary Magdalene, amongst the people. Now, these books are challenging each other. There are different ideologies confronting each other, and that will actually paralyze the faith. So they had to come up with a book that will support the major agenda, that will actually grow the faith, and putting it in circulation for everyone to have access to it will actually bring in some real challenges. So the only people who are given the chance or the opportunity of holding these Bibles were only the priests, the fathers, or people who went through the theological. So the church had a duty to do. They wanted to create and expand Christianity, but the way they were doing it wasn't so off different from whatever it is Jesus tried to fight with the apostles, with the Pharisees and the scribes of Judea. How? By having the Christian church confiscate all the books and restrict access to these books, or restrict access to prayer sites, or even give themselves the authority over the Christian faith. They are trying to seize power to themselves so that they may be able to control who makes it to heaven and who doesn't. So wasn't that any different from whatever it is the Pharisees did back then? And wasn't that what Jesus tried to do to oppose by telling them that the keys of heaven belongs to everyone and not just only to them? Now, this greed of power is what corrupts. And this is what everyone is supposed to be fighting against. So some books made it, others did not make it. It all had to do with another general agenda behind the council, whatever it is that they were trying to achieve. The question is, was it to the best? Was it actually on a non-biased way, on a non-biased idea? Currently now we have a Bible that contradicts itself in a funny way, but if you read it through carefully, you're going to realize that it is not the Old and New Testament that is in battle right now. It is actually, if you bring the New Testament to a certain distance, it is only the books of Paul that challenge the rest of the other Old Testament books. And that is what the big fight is all about. The books of Acts, John, Matthew, Luke, they are in perfect unison with the Old Testament. If you understood the Old Testament and if you understand where these people are coming from, the religious ideas, the traditional practices, the kind of people and the timeline that they were living in, then you will also be able to understand the story around Jesus. So whether you believe it or not, the Bible is part of this general scheme, of this general idea or perspective that these people were trying to push all along. So they wanted you to see this faith in a specific perspective. But if you mix in the other books, then you'll realize where the truth is. Now, is it the same as the parable of Jesus where he was asked, if you have a field of wheat, and then the enemy comes and sprinkles weed all over it, Well, the answer that he gave was, you should let them both grow, and then when you harvest, that's when you're going to separate the two. Now, is it the same thing that we are experiencing now? Part of the Bible was taken out. Other letters were brought in. A big division amongst it. You cannot tell the truth from fiction. You cannot tell fiction from the truth. But now, this is the age of information, where everyone has a chance to actually go out and look for these books for themselves. When these books were being discovered, the church tried to also put a tag around it so that people may not get access to it. But it is ordinary people, just like you and me, who fought for that right so that they may be able to gain access to actually learn something from these books. And that is something that they did not want. But right now we have the truth. Right now we can actually get access to those books. We see what the weed is and what the wheat is. Right now we are able to separate those two. Question is, what is the truth? So all I'll leave you with is, open your eyes, be true to yourself, and become one. We out. So what else are they not telling you? Well, don't wait until they come and tell you, because they won't. Go out there and find out for yourself.